Okay, hi guys, this is Agamemnon from SC2 Mistakes, bringing you another game. We're going to hit play and introduce the players. First of all, in the bottom right we have FuriousGeo, who is actually here with us.
Hello, sweet world. FuriousGeo here. Join a game with Agamemnon.
Yes, and remember, at SC2 Mistakes, you learn from our mistakes. Also, we have in the top left, in the red trunks, Sanity's Brink. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here with us, so it's just me and Geo. Okay, so what's this video going to be about? Well, first of all, we're going to focus on the idea of expanding. We're going to talk a bit about when you should expand, what happens if you don't, and what kind of a situation you get in when you're one basing versus someone who's expanding. So, Geo, I notice here that you're doing looks like a 6, that's a 7 pool, right?
Yeah, it's a 7 pool. I don't know why I do a 7 pool. I guess I just feel more comfortable with it. It doesn't take too long to get that first drone out. I don't know, do you want me to kind of talk about my thought process here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd like to hear what your plan is.
Because basically I'm not trying to win with the Zergling rush. If I do, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to slow him down. Ideally, when I get better, I want to keep as many of these units alive as possible, as we'll see.
You mean of your initial attack?
Of my initial lings.
Okay.
So I can kind of get ahead. I can get a sense of what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then I can macro ahead of him. And I think you mentioned them in one of your videos, but I've transitioned to Zerg.
Yeah, yeah, and you were saying you feel more comfortable with just the mechanics of the race and everything.
I mean, I started with Terran.
Well, here's your attack, by the way.
So here's the attack. So ideally, while I'm doing this, I want to still be doing things at my base, whether that be droning up, whether that be getting down.
Yeah.
At this point, a Roach Warren.
It looks like you're a supply block right now, but I think you're actually doing the extractor trick.
Yeah.
Oh no, not yet. Sorry.
I'm pretty focused on this right now.
Yeah, of course. I just want to slow it down. We're going to just kind of take a look at how this attack goes. Here come the Lings. Let's count how many workers they get. 1. 2, I think. 3.
Now, obviously, we see an excellent display of my micro skills here. That's where the drones stick out the Lings, but...
Okay, so we're just going to pause for a second. I just want to show you guys what happened there. So, those 6 Zerglings were actually even trade with the workers. As you can see, Geo here was able to get 6 SCVs. But something else I'd like to just point out is that, let's look at the Army tab. Sanity's Brink, as you can see, he had no army to defend that. He had nothing. He relied on his workers. And right now, FuriousGeo, if you can see up at the top, has 400 minerals. So before I hit play, I just kind of want to ask you, like, would you have considered, or did you consider in the game, putting down an expo, thinking that perhaps, since you didn't see an army, and you have 1 unit, I don't know what it is, let's just take a look at the units here. You've got a couple Zerglings still. Maybe it would have been safe to expand and then continue in the same path that you were on?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I mean, being the skill level that I am as a terrible Starcraft player, going into his base and seeing he has nothing, I don't think I didn't react properly to it.
Okay. So
that's completely accurate, as I should have, and even now I see there's nothing.
Right.
Right. So why am I not expanding?
Okay. So you think that would have been a viable?
I think that's probably the best thing to do, because at this point I mean, the rush isn't going to work anymore. Yeah,
you're maybe hoping for a containment, maybe to keep some pressure on.
So I've already kind of gone off my game plan. Is I did what I set out to do, is harass him, push him back a bit.
Which you did, yeah.
Which I did, but I didn't move ahead.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I didn't expand and so on.
See, that's something I think is really important, is that if anybody out there, if you guys want to play, an early pressure game, I'm not even talking about rushing in order to win, but one of the best things that you can hope for in a rush is that you actually do quite a bit of damage to his economy. And Geo, you were able to do that. You took out 6 of his workers. So if your opponent's economy is damaged, then probably the best response to that would be... little split there. Anyway, best response to that, I think, is an expansion, because then you can really take that economic lead.
Yeah. And as a Zerg, I mean, that's what you want to do.
Yeah, so can you know, I don't really know a lot about Zerg. I know I'd mentioned this before, but can you kind of tell me a bit the value of... like, Zerg seems to early expand every single time almost. Is there more of a value to a Zerg player to have extra hatcheries than it is necessarily for a Terran or a Protoss to have extra command centers or Nexus?
Well, I guess the biggest thing is because the hatchery, and as you go up the layer in the hive there, your production building.
Right.
So the real value comes into the ability to spawn larvae at those hatcheries as soon as possible, because you can grow your army size so fast.
Yes.
It's very difficult for a Zerg to one base, because past mid-game, early game, you're going to start getting overpowered by the Protoss and the Terrans of the world.
Right, and I imagine too you get bottlenecked, because if you only have one hatch, you just simply can't produce as much as you'd like to.
Yeah, if you just want to take an example right now, if I had thrown down an expansion there, now all of a sudden I have 12 larvae spitting out every time I push with my queens. Right now that's not possible.
Yeah.
So that's where you'll see a lot of those macro hatches end up in the base too.
Yeah.
Which is something I want to work on.
It's almost worth it, just even if you're not comfortable expanding, maybe just build that second expo in your base just so you can get that production, right? Another thing I'd like to note is right here we're at about 6.5 minutes. You had about 5 larvae there. I think it really actually shows up more in a couple minutes. But it kind of looks like you're having a hard time fully producing out of these larvae. Is that correct? Like, do you kind of feel...
Yeah, I think in this point I'm kind of in a... I want to expand.
Yes.
Right? At this point I'm like, oh, I should expand, but I don't have the money.
Yes.
I have it, but I have no army now. And I'm 7 minutes into the game. I'm like, holy smokes, if I don't build an army and I expand now, I'm done, right? So I'm in a really... I found myself in a really tricky spot right now as to what do I do.
Interesting, and that's a spot that you wouldn't find yourself in if you had expanded at that first attack.
And it seems so strange, because you think, well, if I expand early, I'm in danger.
Right.
But you're really not. If I expanded at this point, well, now I'm in danger.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Now he has an army to push with.
Yeah, let's take a look at that army tab. Still pretty close. It's funny that the feeling of being in danger sometimes is not really necessarily accurate, eh?
That's why I always love watching replays.
So the other thing I wanted to kind of bring out is that there are different ways to expand and different timings. So if someone were to ask, when should I expand, probably the easiest answer is, as we saw at the beginning, when you're attacking, right? So we saw that attack arrive, especially that early pressure did some nice damage to the economy of the opponent. He's still in his base. I bet he's still really nervous. He's taking an expansion, but you could have had one up a lot earlier.
Yeah.
Right? A lot earlier. So that's a good timing. Now, it looks like we've missed that window, and now we're concerned about getting an army up just to survive the game, right? So one of the other things that we're going to see, I think it's around the 12-minute mark, is another timing, I would say, that expansion is really, really, really key. But we'll leave you guys hanging for that, and you'll see when Geo actually expands and why. And it's some really nice decision making. Works really good. Let's take a look at the production tab.
APM is through the roof. Let me just put it that way. I had to really slow it down because my hands started to cramp.
So we're just keeping it down to one.
That's a great time to go to the production tab there, Dan. Yeah, that's great.
Sorry about that. Oh, so embarrassing. One thing I will say, I think I mentioned this to you before, is that your spending is really good. Like from just a building and spending, that's a great spending rate. But one of the things I wanted to kind of ask you, again, we're at the 9.5 minute mark. I'd like you to see all these larvae here. Did you kind of get the feeling that you kind of were, I don't know, I would almost say it's like poor. It's like it's hard to actually start filling in your production, especially because you're not saturated fully at your mineral line.
Yeah, I think you get into this, and I'm finding with Zerg, because your drones are building your buildings, so you're losing drones as you build. But again, I'm getting into the situation where I at 10 minutes in, okay, I need to get some mid-game stuff.
Right.
I need Aspire to go down.
Yeah.
So I'm spending money on... I'm poor. Like, I'm using my money, but I'm not bringing in enough money.
Yeah, and then look, I think there's something like 10 larvae.
And then at this point,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, okay, I got to get some money up because I got to get some mid-game units because I got nothing, right? I got some roaches out, so I'm pretty sure I go into some Mutalisks here.
So
and I get supply blocked.
So I know it's
Which
not...
is another thing.
Yeah, well, I know it's not impossible to be on one base, but do you think for a Zerg that the advice you would give is that one base is really only good for tier 1 units?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's these builds out there that you can one base Roach and you can one base... I guess you could one base Ling.
Yeah.
If I had a choice, I'd probably one base Roach. And you could even one base Muta. But
Yeah.
beyond that, it's almost impossible to do it.
Yeah, so let's see what you're producing here. Sorry, what's that research, by the way?
That's for the Roach speed.
Roach speed, okay. Because I know you have a bit of a roach
Which
on
is
here.
extremely late. Considering I've had those roaches for the last 6 minutes, I think. But it's almost done, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's almost done. But, one thing that I do think is important to note as well is, hey guys, if you've noticed that Geo, even though maybe he might feel a little under the wire here, let's just pause for a second. I want to see what kind of information Sanity's Brink has. So you'll notice that he really doesn't have much. He knows that Geo's got, the one building that you're supposed to have. So
yeah, that's surprising actually.
Yeah. But why do you think that he's back here? Look at his army, just sitting in the middle of his base at the back. Right? I think it's because he's afraid because you put some aggression on him early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think there's value in that.
I think, and he's probably assuming that I would have expanded at that point.
Right.
So he's a little concerned. And I think we're going to see that concern come out by some of his decision making.
Yeah. And even if he hasn't seen the expansion, I would imagine that if he thinks you're on one base, he's expecting some kind of crazy all-in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you showed some really early aggression that put him back on his heels. Now he's expecting something hard to come at him, right? And here they come. Okay, so we're going to follow these guys for a second, and I want you guys just to watch the minimap just in case you can't see this.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why. I'm trying to remember why I went to Muta. Playing Terran, I hated Mutas.
Yeah.
Like, they're the worst.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, watch in the bottom. Let's see.
I got some more coming behind me, too.
Do you? Okay, all right.
I think they have a little rally point up here.
Let's just... Sorry, guys. I think I was off by, like, a couple seconds. Let's just see here. Here it is. Check this out. Okay, so the mutas are up. If you're looking in the minimap, the mutas are up at the left. They're just about to hit the base. And what happens? An expansion goes down. Okay, so now, I don't want to put words in your mouth, man, but that is a really, really nice timing. And the reason for it is that these guys are going to be able to harass the mineral line. Here they go.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you guys also to take a look at what kind of response, was it 4? 4 Mutalisks brings from the enemy. Not to mention the fact that he doesn't really have much anti-air other than Queens and just a couple Hydralisks. All right. So you're getting some attacks here, and what happens? Here they come, right? So why do you think it's safe to expand when you build Mutalisks?
Well, it's just, I mean, we're seeing it now. He can't leave. Yeah. Right? And this is why Mutalisks are awesome, because they're so fast and they can just jump back and forth.
Yeah. And check it out, you got free pickings here, and you can, like you said, you can just go back and forth. Queen's a bit of a problem, but
yeah, this is an obvious misclick. I mean, I think of the drones I could have taken down here.
Yeah,
and I could have probably got that queen too.
Yeah. But his army. Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry, what were you saying? Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I think I just got to try. I mean, micro is always probably the biggest thing that most beginners need to work on.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just practice.
But they're still alive though.
Yeah, they're still good, and it's very early in my Zerg life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, speaking about timing, I think those are perfect times to throw down expansions when you're pushing. In this case, this should be my third, if not fourth base.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I never actually thought of that because at about this time now, you've almost got enough for another base. Mm-hmm. So if you had taken this expansion at your first attack, and then when you spit those Mutalisks out, because you know it's going to distract the enemy, then perhaps you could be taking your third. Yeah. Right? So we could be looking at a situation where it's a 3-base play versus a 2-base.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the biggest things too is now it shifts your opponent's focus as where he's going to spend some money. Because if he's ever planning on attacking, he's going to have to invest in some support back home, in this case being Spore Crawlers, if you have Mutalisks running all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing too that I think, and we can see what's happened here, and this is actually the theme for the whole game, is that, like I said, because of your attacking, you've kept him on his heels, he's staying home. He can't take a third because these Mutalisks will not allow it to happen. Mm-hmm. And as far as he knows, you've got another 10 coming back home, right? Mm-hmm. So I really think that kind of containment play almost, you know he can't go anywhere, but then what does a Zerg do when he feels like he can't get out of his base? Any guesses?
Yeah, well, I know what happens. Yeah. But it's an interesting point because I have nothing, right? Really.
No.
Like, I've played this game pretty poorly.
Let's take a look at the army tab, in fact.
But I've made him assume that I'm playing much better than I am.
Yes, your aggression has checked him.
So that's something to say about aggression.
And I'd like to show you what, like, for example, right here you've got the Nidus network. So he feels so uncomfortable about leaving his base that he has to rely on this Overseer to put down a Nidus worm, because he figures the only way he can actually attack you is to go in through the back, right? And obviously with the Nidus worm, then you can kind of go back and forth from your base to the opponents, even if it doesn't work. But I just think that it's a very interesting psychological play that these few units, being slightly aggressive, have been able to ball up an army that's about twice the size. Yeah. Right? So, so I think we've seen pretty plainly. I'm going to hit play here. And we're actually going to speed it up because this is not terribly instructive. As we know, what else is the Zerg going to do, right? Yeah, so let's just speed this up a little bit more. And let's watch this happen. Oh, go down. Poor Queen, poor Queen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to just briefly look, because we're going to be looking at another game here.
Yeah.
Kind of what I learned. My creep spread is not good at this point in the game.
Right,
so my creep spread alone should have told me that was coming.
Sure, because if your creep spread was going right to the edge,
I would be able to see it.
Absolutely.
I've kind of got, just seeing the use of overlords, you kind of see that they're a little spread out. I don't like the bald overlord thing. I see a lot of players do that.
Yeah, and that's really prone to air attacks too.
This is just, I guess, bad positioning on my point with those overlords, because ideally I like to get them all around my base.
Yeah.
So an overlord right beside my other one over there would have clearly shown that was coming and I could react to it. Especially
in areas where you do know it's bare,
and
you don't have that creep spread. Perhaps, it's good to park an overlord there until you can spread the creep. The other thing that you had mentioned before is that overlords are actually able to spread creep themselves.
Yeah.
I don't really know how that works, but
they just do it. They're weird. Overlords are a weird thing.
Do they?
Somehow they contain supply. I'm not really sure how that works, but
and they spit out goop.
Yeah.
But do you have to research for that, or is it?
Yeah. Well, you got to get a lair. You got to get a lair.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's it for this video. We're just going to take the next 10 seconds. At least his workers tried to defend valiantly. But let's just go over really quickly some of the things we learned from this mistake when it comes to expanding. First of all, not a mistake, but the initial attack sure does help to damage your opponent's economy. If you're able to do that, why not take an even bigger lead by expanding at that time? Notice that probably the amount of microwing that you'd have to do when you're attacking your opponent will probably result in a float of close to what you'd have to expand. Well, I keep forgetting that Zerg don't need 400 to expand.
No, 300.
300,
Yeah.
right. So it would have been even easier. Okay. Especially if you see that your opponent is expanded. Maybe on that second attack, we saw that run by up the ramp. If we see that second expansion and we see an equal army, it shouldn't be a hard thing to expand. We know that we're pretty safe, right? I guess that's about it. I mean, that was a very close game, even for the fact that you felt like it was a whole lot of mistakes.
And I mean, looking at it, if I would have had that hatch up right away, my supply should technically be double what it is right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, that was a game that should have been won by my part, but
absolutely.
obviously some errors were made.
Yeah, and just a little bit of a scouting mistake. I've done this myself. This has happened to me many times. Just allowing that Nidus Worm to come into the back door. Okay, guys, well, that's it for this video. Please stay tuned for the next one, where we're going to see FuriousGeo expand correctly and win. See ya!